Eve Young, economics and domestic affairs correspondent for the Jerusalem Post. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are discussing the new tariffs set forth by U.S. President Donald Trump against several countries, including Israel. A lot of Israelis were really baffled by this, because I think that not everybody necessarily understands to the fullest extent what a tariff is, and also because until now the U.S. has been our strongest ally, especially throughout this war, but in general, and this has felt like a huge blow to the back to a lot of Israelis. So first of all, just as a baseline, can you explain to people what are tariffs?
Yes, thank you for having me. Exciting to be here in the studio, as always. A tariff is a tax on imported goods. Simple as that. An exporter wanting to bring goods from a foreign country into the U.S. now must pay a tax on those goods.
Okay, and what exactly did the tariffs set forth by Trump look like?
So Trump announced a really, really sweeping set of tariffs, like 10% baseline, right? So now the minimum tariff on goods imported to the U.S. is 10%. And for Israel, it's a 17% tariff. The U.S. said that this is in response to what they called a 33% tariff imposed on U.S. goods by Israel, which some organizations and bodies have called a puzzling statement, saying that they're not sure where that number came from. Notably, Israel just yesterday canceled tariffs on U.S. goods.
That's the very same day that Trump set up the U.S. tariffs against Israel.
It might have been, I believe it was yesterday. No, it was the day before. One day before. So one day before Trump announced these tariffs, Israel announced that it was lowering or eliminating all of its tariffs on U.S. goods, making kind of this an even more painful moment for Israelis businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that Donald Trump had to an extent planned this in advance. It does feel like a blow to the back, especially since Israel has been pretty supportive, especially since a lot of Trump's decision making has been in some ways affiliated with his political lineations beyond just like the general what do we need to do right now as the U.S. thing. What are Israeli business people, because the business sector and the high-tech sector are very much impacted by these tariffs. What are they saying right now, other than obviously condemning it and being concerned over their business enterprise's future?
So it's definitely a little more up in the air and a little less harsh than I think the way you've described it. Like the blow to the back, like I think that I can understand why that would be a sentiment, especially one day after Israel kind of made this move to lower tariffs or eliminate them. But I'm actually seeing a lot of caution. I'm seeing a lot of fear and concern among businesses, business leaders, NGOs, umbrella organizations, and the Israeli government. But we're not seeing which makes sense, right? The U.S. is Israel's most important and significant trade partner. So we're not going to have the Israeli and in general, diplomatically, one of the most important partner Israel has, right?
Yes.
Just strategically. So, of course, we're not going to see people coming out and saying, wow, you've betrayed us. We're going to deal only with China or Russia now. But we're definitely seeing extreme concern. A lot of organizations that include business heads really urging the Israeli government to negotiate this and really hoping that this is a temporary thing. We're not sure what the impacts on the high-tech sector will be yet. We also kind of don't know exactly what the tariffs include and what's exempt. There are exemptions.
Right.
60-ish% of Israeli exports to the U.S. are actually services, business services. So we don't necessarily think that those will be included in tariffs, which is good news. There are also really important exemptions on other kind of major exports of Israel to the U.S., including semiconductors and pharma. But we're seeing concern that, for example, Israeli multinational corporations, say in construction, also have U.S. branches which will be impacted and their profit margins may be impacted. So in turn, that could kind of hurt Israel's construction industry, which is already massively impacted by the war.
And actually, the OECD report that just came out the other day was talking about the severe impact on the construction industry in Israel in general. So already this is a highly impacted, highly suffering industry that would only suffer more.
Construction has been incredibly constricted by labor shortages during the war. We know that there's been a ban on Palestinian workers, which has had a really significant impact on the industry. We are seeing a little bit of concern about impacts on high tech. We just kind of don't know what it will be yet. We're also seeing some companies initiate hiring freezes just because in general there's so much unknown and there's a lot of fear surrounding such a sweeping and potentially extremely globally impactful move. So we are seeing some fear and some kind of shifts in actions.
There's hesitation, but I think that overall what we're seeing is a let's keep calm until we know exactly what these tariffs are. And until the U.S. releases the exact measures of these tariffs, we can't know for sure exactly how much it's going to impact the Israeli economy. Is that correct?
We have kind of initial indicators, right, of exemptions of what will be taxed. But yeah, it's tricky to say because this is it's a sweeping global move. It's going to impact every country. Some business leaders are also kind of concerned about runoff effects, right? If in general this reduces competition globally, that will impact innovation. There are so many secondary effects that could happen. The U.S. is a huge, major global powerhouse. So a sweeping tariff across every country it does business with is going to have really massive impacts that it's hard to say what they'll be.
Amazing. Thank you so much for explaining, Eve.
Thanks for having me.